Have you ever heard the term you should have read the fine print? Well, the fine print is really fine, but there's a lot of. But what you should do before, going into some kind of a contractual obligation before signing a contract is to ask questions. And when it comes to signing a contract that has, long-lasting consequences, long-lasting relations, you should probably ask a lot of questions. And there are no dumb questions, because the only dumb questions are the questions that you didn't ask. You signed a contract and you later got yourself into trouble, and you're not. So you should ask a lot of questions and you should probably pay attention how the other side answers them. If they're trying to, be evasive or something, double down on that question. If they're saying, that's just industry standard, double down on it. What does that mean? What does industry standard mean? I'm not an expert in this industry. I want to know, what does that mean? Don't be blown off by just some stupid answer like, it's just industry standard. That doesn't mean. I'm doing a lot of real estate, for instance. In a real estate contract, in our legislation, in our country, it's kind of, based that the contract is drafted in a specific manner. But if the client, specifically buyer or the seller, wants something dramatically change, so it's completely different, I'm not going to say that, that's industry standard. I'm going to say, I'm a lawyer, I'm an experienced lawyer in this field. What I can say is we can have this changed the way you want, but you should consider that there are some caveats regarding this. Or I can say, specifically this part of the contract cannot be changed the way you want, because there are specific laws regarding this part of the contract. If we change it too much, it's not going to be valid. The owner will not be able to provide the buyer to be the new. So we cannot change it. But if you would tell me why you are thinking about changing it, perhaps we can change some other part of it. So that's just another way to handle cases, just to say it's industry standard. Of course, I could say, that's just industry standard. That's the way all the contracts are being made. But I'm trying to be adaptable. I know what the basis, what the meaning of each of the contract clause is. And if the client tells me, the buyer or the opposite party says, I don't want to sign, because I can explain what the downsides and the upsides are. I can even explain what the alternatives are, as long as they ask. But if they sign the contract, they're trying not to look dumb and then later come back and say, what does that mean? It's a bit too late. You already signed the contract. So that you should definitely ask stupid questions, ask a lot of questions before the sign contract, and you should double down on questions that you don't understand. It even happens, to me, when I explain something, you need to understand that I'm an expert in that field. When I explain something, I'm trying to explain like I would normally explain to someone, and perhaps the other party will not understand such a thing. And I don't know if they don't understand, especially if they're nodding and saying. And it has come to my attention that sometimes I need to actually double check, do you understand this? Do you need the clarification? And even that time, sometimes people are really scared to admit that they don't understand what it means. And it's really problematic if they're paying me as their lawyer to explain something to them, because I'm not doing a good job if I'm not explaining it right, so they don't understand. And they're not letting me do my job if they don't tell me that they don't know what I'm explaining to them, that I should change my way of explanation. I'm actually pleased with clients that have, they are more wealthy, that are more successful in life, because even if somebody has a PhD, they will say to me, especially if they have a PhD or a master's, they will say to me, I'm an expert in my field, but I don't understand what you're saying, and I have explained it differently. And I haven't asked them, do you understand it now? Should I explain it further? And they say, no, I'm not completely I'm getting a grasp of it, but I'm not completely getting it. And I will explain it even further down. I will water it even further down, really silly down, because I want them to understand. I'm not saying they're stupid. They just don't have the experience. They don't have the knowledge about it. That's why they got my help. I'm not trying to put them down. I'm trying to make them understand the way I understand, or the way they need to understand, so they can decide what the risks and the benefits of some contractual problem is. And I see this as people who are more experienced, more, literate, they have read more, written more, they are more likely to ask stupid questions, because they know that's the only way they can learn. And people who are kind of afraid are usually the ones who are less educated. And it's really a problem, because that specific type of person that are less educated should ask the most questions, so they can gain the most knowledge. But sometimes they're just too scared or embarrassed to say, I don't understand. Can you explain it in some other? And sometimes, it depends on the personality type. Sometimes they will actually say, I don't understand correctly. You told me. Please tell me another way. And I will explain it. I will water it down till they explain it. Till they say, okay, I understand it now. Not specifically, but I understand enough so I can make it. Because I have all these specifics in my head about the contact. And I need them to understand first the general concept. And then I add up layers of understanding of this. And if they ask me a specific question about specific issues, specific fear, specific, risk, then I'm, focus on that. So the time to ask stupid questions is most explicitly before you sign in, because that is the time when you're gaining knowledge. That is the time you're gaining information that you can decide upon whether you're going into this contact. Perhaps you will decide it's not for you. You need to must sign that contract because it's contrary to yours. So hope that helps. That is universal from nevertheless from which country you are. You should ask questions before. Mind the fact that if you ask questions, the opposing party's attorney, so the other part attorney, they can of course not be very divergent. They cannot explain everything, every risk to you. So you should probably get your own attorney, your own legal help to get the information you need. In my practice, I try to be fair to both, but I've seen some colleagues that are usually unfair to the other party. Although that's long term, that's the bad. And I've seen clients that have taken other lawyers for their legal help that have not had actually very experience, they're not very experienced in this field. And we had actually more problems with them as I would think. That's just the way first work. I'm okay with it, but going back, ask questions before, get specific expert help before. And if you need to, even in legal things, get a second opinion. It's not just for medical things, get a second opinion. And if the two opinions are very different, get a further, because usually that will change things in some perspective. That's it for me. Hope it helps, and read what you sign can get you in trouble.